With another installment of the Hangover series to hit theaters soon, I just have one question. Why did they make another one? You're watching Victoria's Questions. A new superhero movie hits the big screen every other quarter. They're already making a remake of that not-so-old movie like Total Recall and Superman. And I'm starting to think we're running out of movie ideas. Why is it that every other movie out now is a remake or a sequel? It seems there are rarely original films being created anymore. Sequels are making movie companies a fortune nowadays, as Americans have proven themselves easily entertained and willing to pay to see the next installment of the exact same movie, like The Hangover, and its sequel, like The Hangover Part 2. Exact same plot, just different situations. Movies like Saw, Scream, Scary Movie, and Paranormal Activity now have 4 or 5, even 6 films in their respective series. And I can think of one that goes beyond that. Anybody familiar with The Land Before Time? First one was the best one. I think there's like 14. ScreenRant.com has put together a list of the top 12 sequels that they think have been the best ones ever made. A few of the common ones on there are Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man, and Toy Story. Now, one of the things that I think they did best with Lord of the Rings is the first 3 movies, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King, were all filmed at the exact same time. And then they released the movies at different dates. Then you kind of don't run into the issue of characters aging, not looking appropriate to the age they're supposed to be, like Harry Potter. Could have been way better if they would have just kept going. And understandably, there wasn't a 7th book, but I mean, come on. Pixar's done a great job with Toy Story. The first movie was definitely a big one in our hearts, and the second one came back with new characters, but the third one put a nice cap on the end. Andy's going off to college, and there's kind of like a nice wrap-up. Gives us that feeling of closure, which we don't really see with a lot of movies. Let's think about some classic movies from our time, like The Sandlot or Dumb and Dumber. Both have sequels, and both of them are awful. I haven't seen the sequels, I've only watched the previews, but it was enough information for me to know that I did not want to watch them. You know, there are classics out there that just shouldn't be remade or added a sequel. Hollywood has also made a killing through adaptations of films, as several films have been remade more than one time. Superman, Spider-Man, Aliens, Alien vs. Predators, all those adaptations. According to a Yahoo article, Freaky Friday has been one of the films that has been remade countless times, and there have even been several adaptations of the film. A new film with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds called Switch Up is just like Freaky Friday, except instead of a mother-daughter situation, they've got a best friend situation. One of them's really old and has a family and a professional life, and the other one is not professional. You know, he's going out partying, and you find out later on that he does softcore porn as his job. But it's similar, except they pee in a fountain instead of, you know, the fortune cookie and stuff like that. There's another adaptation of Freaky Friday from the 90s that some of you may not be familiar with, but if you watch Disney Channel religiously like I did, then you might know what it is. Wish Upon a Star. It was before Katherine Hagel got her huge break. She's from Knocked Up, if you don't know the name. Wish Upon a Star doesn't feature a mother-daughter situation. Again, the adaptation is just sister-sister, and they wish upon a star, causing them to switch bodies. But all of these adaptations have been enjoyed by multiple audiences, although I could have done that without Lindsay Lohan in this last one. Filmmakers often get inspiration from several books. Many authors, like Nicholas Sparks, have tons of novels that have been turned into movies recently, like The Notebook, Dear John, and those are just a few. Stephen King's It was brought to life in the 1990 film on the big screen, as well as the famous novel Holes by Louis Sachar, which was turned into a motion picture in 2003. Loved it. One of the movies that I've already mentioned before as being a great sequel or series, and that is another one that's been turned from a book into a movie, The Lord of the Rings. Written over, how long ago was it written? I don't know. Not in this century. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But Totally awesome books, really thick, and they've turned them into 3 great movies. Of course, who can deny how much money movie makers have raked in by bringing real-life events, or at least their own spin on them, to the big screen? Just in the past 3 years alone, almost 50 films have been based on a true story. Some notable ones include 127 Hours, Moneyball, and 42, the recently released biographical film on Jackie Robinson. A really popular one that's gotten a lot of nominees and awards would be Zero Dark 30, which I've heard is a great recreation of how we captured Osama. One that's really popular and got tons of awards, thanks to Daniel Day-Lewis, would be Lincoln. Now, I don't know how much of it that is honestly historically based facts, but still, really good movie. After the break, we will be joined by a few HC students as my guests on the show to talk about movies, sequels, and the things that just should not be done. You're watching Victoria's Questions. Welcome back to Victoria's Questions. Today on the show, we have 2 Hastings College students joining us as my guests. We have movie enthusiast Sam Gentry and self-proclaimed movie critic Thomas Olsen. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so today we've been discussing sequels to series and movies and why they should or should not be made, the good ones, the bad ones. I mean, everywhere you turn, it's a remake of a film, a sequel, this or that, or based on a true story. Your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I can see it from both perspectives, from an audience and from a business standpoint. I mean, people are paying to see these movies. The reason why producers go out and make these movies is people are paying to see them. The reason why we have 6 Fast and the Furious is because each one keeps making more and more money.
Right.
It's just business when it comes down to it. People have a problem with making sequels. They should stop seeing them. So
right.
That's my thought.
And I think we've seen this trend a lot. Even in the early days of silent movies, we had movies based on plays and books because you already had a story built, so it was quite easy to make something that you could adapt to the screen. So, you know, like Sam said, from a business standpoint, it's a brilliant idea, and you already have an established audience.
Do you feel like movie makers are, I don't know, losing originality, or we don't have as many creative people out there? Just because so many books have been turned into movies, and there's just, I mean, I'm sure that The Hangover Part 3 is probably going to involve them getting messed up, having a wild night, and then waking up the next morning trying to retrace their steps and figure it all out again.
With an exotic animal.
Exactly. Which, I mean, for me,
It's a giraffe this time, though. I mean, come on.
They're in Africa this time, or is there a zoo?
No, they go back to Las Vegas.
Okay.
But it's not for a bachelor party. So they're being different here, so it's okay.
Okay.
It's like,
So it's slightly different.
No,
Not really. No.
they're pretending.
And you know, I'm one of those guilty ones because I saw The Hangover too, and I saw it multiple times. Like, I know it's the same plot, but it's hilarious. I love Zach Galifianakis. And so, do you think like the actors too? I mean, if they're consistent through sequels, that would improve the movie?
What do you mean by consistent?
Like, okay,
The same performance?
like the same people, like Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey
Oh, that
was
makes a huge
awesome.
difference. That's-
Dumb and Dumber, completely different cast.
That's one
you
of my
know?
biggest pet
Yeah.
peeves in movies when you see it becomes really obvious that they rush the sequel because they don't even have the same cast. I mean, if you don't have the time to make sure that your cast is available, you should probably just, I don't get why you can't wait 6 months. I don't get why you have to quickly roll this movie out. So,
Yeah. And I mean, Batman was even guilty, like, replacing Katie Holmes with Maggie Gyllenhaal. To be honest, I didn't know they were the same character because it had been a long time since I saw Batman Begins. So it confused the hell out of me, to be perfectly honest.
So definitely keeping consistency. I mean, if they're going to do big block series like that, keeping consistent with the actors in the first movie probably helps the quality of it in the end.
where you see a big problem with that too is more in the director's spot. Because the director, it's a lot of work to make a movie. It takes an average of 2 years. So when these studios want movies out every year, like with Twilight or The Hunger Games, and they want to bring everyone back. They do, but then these directors, take a step back, like, whoa, like I need a break. Like I just got done. I can't rush
Right,
into the
and
movies.
you
That's-
see that in movies. Like, I know Harry Potter, not just did you see a change in actors, because
And you
the
can tell
original
in the
Dumbledore
side,
died.
Yeah.
Well, and the set changed completely between directors. Hogwarts got a different spin. Hagrid's house was down a hill all of a sudden, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Hunger Games now, too. I mean, they have a new director from the first and the second one, because the first one didn't want to do it in that short of time. Same with Twilight. And then Fast and Furious 7, which is happening. Fast and Furious 6 has not come out yet. The studio's already working on it.
Really?
And the director did not want to come back like in that amount of time, so they went and just fine, we'll hire a new director. So
Resident Evil's done the same thing,
Yeah.
but you know, Paul W.S. Anderson's been the one doing it. Not to be confused with the good, director of the similar name.
Right. What about the movies like based on a true story, or, I mean,
That's such a loose term, though. Like, remember the train movie? I don't remember what it was called, but they
Unstoppable?
were Unstoppable. That was based on a true story, but it took place in a different state, and the events were basically not the same thing at all. It was just like they both had a train, the true event in the movie, and that was kind of the main thing. And maybe a black guy and a white guy were involved. Like, that might be true as well. But besides that, I mean, I don't know if the guy had daughters at Hooters and
Yeah, right.
all this weird stuff.
do you think that the tagline based on a true story draws viewers in because it seems like, oh, this really happened in real life?
I mean, yeah, that's such a huge draw. I mean, like if you look at 127 Hours, that's based on a true story, and most of that is accurate. I mean, for me, that just makes it such more packed, just a way more emotional punch when you watch it. Like, holy crap, this guy cut off his arm. Like, he really did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And historical films, like, you feel like you're learning something because, they're based on history, and so you feel a little bit smarter afterwards, even if the history is not necessarily accurate.
Right, but to be fair, history is just an interpretation of what people want it to be. So
Oh, that's a student of Babcock.
that
right
is the
there.
liberal arts education for you. So Marvel Comics, what do you think about those? I mean, they've made a lot of movies and, brought out a lot of new stuff.
I feel like with comics, there's so much content behind that with different villains, so many different storylines from the comics. There's just so much potential to make movies. That's one thing. That's one, I guess, franchise, or I don't know what you call it. Supers in general, they're based off comic books. There's just so much content there. You can
Definitely.
keep rolling them out, and they're still new and fresh, and they're not. You can tell they're not just rehashing old ideas if they're doing it right. But.
Yeah.
If they're doing it right,
And
that's a
of
big
course, there's
if.
always a potential for reboots too. So, heck, Spider-Man. We had 3 Spider-Mans. Everyone kind of was like,
Right.
Spider-Man 3 was crap, and so hey, let's reboot it.
Well, okay. The reason why they rebooted the 4th one, because they were going to make a 4th one with the same director, same
Really?
cast. Yeah, and
Sam Raimi was gonna do it for it.
he had the script already and everything, and he gave it to the producers, and they're like, we don't like this. Can you go do something different? He's like, nope. And so he just left the project when he left, and the cast left, and they're like,
Gotta start over.
Well, the reason, because they bought the rights for Spider-Man from Marvel, which is why Sony has it,
Yeah.
why Spider-Man's not in the Avengers. So
Yeah.
in their contract, they have to be making a Spider-Man movie every so many years. So they're like, well, we better reboot it. So to me, when I saw that, I saw it as a rushed product. For what it was,
Was it?
it was a good. It was a good film. Like, it just, for me, I could just see through the. I knew that they rushed it. For me, I maybe went in biased, knowing, okay, they threw this film together really fast. Yeah, it's a little different in style, but it's pretty much the same plot as the first one. So that really kind of ruined the element of surprise. But that was just my opinion. I know a lot of people loved the 4th one, so that probably went against the normal rules of sequels.
Yeah.
Right.
When are we going to see a Batman reboot? Because Batman's going to be in the Justice League, and it's not
Justice
going to be
League.
Christian Bale. And that's
Well,
in 2015 or 20.
They're shooting for it. A lot of it depends on how the reaction is from Man of Steel. If that ends up getting a good reception, they're going to keep pulling out other DC heroes. I think, what do you got, like The Flash?
Green Lantern was just
Green Lantern.
terrible.
Oh.
That movie was an abortion.
And
No.
you can't really have the Justice League within the Christopher Nolan universe because it's so
Dark
the
and
new,
gritty.
It's dark, gritty, and it's very grounded. There's not a lot of fantasy involved in that unless Superman is an
No.
alien. So, yeah, they've got a kind of a problem there. So I'm really curious to see how they address that. And maybe they'll go. I think they can. I really hope they don't try to do something like the Avengers, where it's giddy and fun and just kind of like, ha, look at us, we're all together. I'm really hoping they stick with maybe that gritty, dark style. I think it'd be a nice substitute to the Avengers, and I think that's the direction.
And it'd be a great counterbalance to the fun of Marvel comics to we're DC, we're gritty, cool.
Yeah.
The last thing that I want to touch on Star Wars. Disney has the. Are you worried?
Yes.
I know, right? I am too.
Canon.
I really don't like the choice of J.J. Abrams as the director. I mean, I think he's a fantastic director. Everything he's done is awesome. But I feel like we're just going to get something so similar to Star Trek with this. I really would have liked to see him go a different direction, so we get a different style with it. I mean, I feel like it's going to be so similar. And he's already done so many projects like this. I'd really like him to do something.
Branch out.
Yeah, branch out.
And maybe that's
it's a very safe choice, I think.
That's probably what it is, because Disney's about making money, and you make money with the safe decisions generally, especially with a name like Disney.
Yeah,
and Star Wars.
As a Star Wars geek, I'm personally very worried because canon. They're going to have to ruin the canon because they have complete storylines written for over 150 years after like the final film, and it's all really bad actually. Like none of it's very good. But the problem is that Star Wars is a self-contained universe. There is somebody who holds the HoloNet. That's the entire canon of the entire like several millennia Star Wars history. And they're going to have to break that, and that opens up a can of worms of, well, now we can just disregard everything that's happened.
Yeah, and pretty much write our own story.
Yeah, so, I mean, that means video games, just all these comics that have been thrown, they just are like, poof, meaningless.
Well, I want to thank my guests for coming on the show today, Thomas and Sam. Very heated discussion, very interesting discussion, and it's a lot for people to think about. I mean, can't just go to movies and pay what you're going to see and expect it to be awesome. I mean, put a little more thought into what you're paying for, I guess.
Talks,
yeah.
So it does. Give your opinion with your admission ticket.
There it is. Good. Okay, well, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back to get some opinions from everybody on the student cam. You're watching Victoria's Questions. So I talked about movie sequels and movie series and stuff that maybe should not have been made. Can you think of the worst sequel you've seen to a movie and why?
The worst sequel?
Yeah.
Probably these scary movies, man. Like Scary Movie, like.
No, there's like multiple screams, like the movies. Like the first one was kind of funny, and then they kept making more and they were dumb.
Maybe some of the Fast and Furiouses. Some of them weren't very good, but a lot of them were pretty good. Like maybe Tokyo Drift, take that one out.
So thinking about sequels and series of movies, which would you say has been the best sequel or series of movies that you've seen come out?
Toy Story is the best. The third one I cried so hard because we grew up with Andy, and so it was like watching ourselves grow up. That's probably my favorite. It's probably Toy Story.
I'd probably say the Superman series or Spider-Man. Any with like action, those are the ones I noticed the most.
Thomas, do you know the actor's name from How I Met Your Mother? Not How I Met Your Mother. Arrested Development. That's what it is.
Which one?
The responsible brother. Jason Bateman. Thank you. Okay. All right, here we go. The Ring 2 was really bad. There's a really bad sequel. That one was not good. I did not. Okay, the part where the reindeer all of a sudden come out of the woods and attack the car. Just weird.
Evil Japanese guy.